Welcome to the NHMS Expert Interview Series, Selling to the NHS. Conversations with the people who know NHS procurement best.
Please lead. So, hello everybody. My name is Barry Schreier, and I'm the founder of Giant Health and also the founder of the NHMS. This is our weekly series about NHS procurement, about buying and selling to the NHS. So I'm extremely delighted to be introducing our guest this week, Lee Joseph. Lee, hello, hi, how are you today?
Yeah, I'm fantastic, Barry. Thank you. Thanks for having me on. How are you?
Yeah, doing really well. Thank you. Beautiful, typical warm, sunny day here in England. So all good. Lee, to begin with, we'd like to ask you simply to introduce yourself. And I think all of our viewers would really love to hear a little bit about your background. Looking at your resume on LinkedIn, you've had an extremely impressive, successful career. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit of background, please, with all of our viewers.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can live up to that, but so my name's Lee Joseph. I'm Managing Director of NHS London Procurement Partnership. NHS London Procurement Partnership, better known as LPP. We are owned by all of the trusts in London, but we service the majority of the trusts across England in some capacity in the estates, facilities, professional services, temporary staffing, medicines optimization and clinical digital solutions area. So we would consider ourselves commercial experts in those spaces. From myself, my background, I started off in the automotive sector, working for organizations such as Visteon, Ford, JCB. I then went on to the likes of General Electric. I worked for GE globally, which was probably where I came to the end of my manufacturing procurement career and pivoted over into healthcare around 12 years ago. I worked for a few years for Health Trust Europe under the umbrella of Hospital Corporation of America, their HCA, and then for the last 10 years, I've been where I am now at NHS LPP.
Excellent. Yes. Well, once again, congratulations. A very impressive career trajectory. What led you to make the transition from manufacturing and in particular automotive into healthcare?
At the time, it was a mixture of issues. And in some ways, the NHS isn't dissimilar. But at the time, when I was at GE, it was the world's biggest company. You know, way before the sort of booms that we've got now in different companies.
Yes.
And it's one of those things whereby you could literally work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and maybe feel that you couldn't quite move the needle.
Wow.
You know, in terms of you could do whatever you could, and in terms of some of your objectives. So that was pretty challenging. I was on the road a lot. There was one period where I was away from home 11 weeks out of 12.
Oh my gosh!
Continually traveling the world, and so I wanted to change, and then it's a case of, well, where do you change to? And so, you know, the idea of going into a sort of public sector, public serving, helping the taxpayer was always attractive. And so for me, it would have been, you know, if it wasn't the NHS, it would have been government, or it would have been public sector in general. And opportunity came up there. Health Trust in going into an area I was sort of very familiar with in terms of indirect procurement. And so it was a nice transition for me to go then ultimately into the NHS itself.
Yes. Yeah. Excellent. Well, we certainly are the biggest champions and fans of UK NHS and healthcare as a sector to be working in. So very glad you made that transition. Lee, this series is about selling to the NHS and challenges and opportunities within the NHS regarding buying or procurement. So very keen to highlight, number one, some of the biggest issues and priorities within the NHS. Of course, you're on the buying side. And number two, helping the half of our audience that are wanting to sell into NHS organizations. So to begin with, if we can look at the procurement side, what are some of your overall experiences, and can you comment a little bit about the broad trajectory of procurement in the NHS over the past few years and future priorities?
Yeah, I mean, first off, it's worth saying, if you are someone looking to supply into the NHS, it can look daunting, right? I mean,
Sure.
it's something that I've spoken about internationally. Who holds the pen, who holds the purse strings, who makes the decisions, and I, that links into where an organisation such as ourselves can help potential vendors with that, or even people in the NHS who are trying to understand the correct routes to market to go and buy from. As a landscape, I think what people need to understand is that it's quite different to say the American model, the sort of GPO type model whereby.
Yeah.
Or the private sector in the UK, where head office will say, "Well, you will buy this," and then people will go off and buy it. That level of control is not there, and for good reason. What you've got is a very fragmented landscape in the NHS.
Yes.
Of different maturity levels. So you've got some trusts who have the latest up-to-date technology, infrastructure, architecture, estates landscape. And data, yes. And so to try and supply them a product or good or service would be quite different to trying to supply something into someone who has evolved, merged, demerged, come together from a sum of very different parts to form the system that they're in today.
Okay.
You take something like technology. The needs would be completely different. Something like estates, the needs would be completely different. You've got some of the NHS that are looking to optimize really best in class, and you've got some of the NHS that are patching holes in the walls and trying to keep just keep the systems going and the laptops going.
Yes, yeah, that's interesting. Obviously, for you as an expert, it's manifest, but the fact that the NHS is this exceedingly fragmented collections of organizations certainly makes it difficult, I guess. There's nobody in the front door of every hospital who's in charge of buying stuff, is there?
No, and that's a really good point. Again, if there's any suppliers looking to come in, for good reason. There's clinical influence over what gets bought. It doesn't necessarily sit with the procurement team. It could sit with an HR director. It could sit with a pharmacist. The decisions could sit in multiple places for good reason.
Yes. Yeah. Interesting. In terms of big themes happening regionally or nationally within procurement, are things evolving, or is it just the same that it's been for the past few decades?
It's definitely evolving. I mean, you can't get away from the fact that as a governance, as an overall level, you've got the ongoing merger or absorption of NHS England into BH.
Yep.
That commercially, that's interesting. The people and the teams involved within that have their ideas for a commercial strategy going forward. We've been going through the process of appointing a director general for those functions. Say we, not me personally, but the powers that be, and that brings with it change in ideas. You've got various different departments that I guess are closing. So things like you've got within the integrated care boards, you've got some sort of headcount removals there. You've got some commissioning units, which will be losing staff as well. But of course, a lot of that work now it needs looking at, which it is being looked at, as to what continues, what moves elsewhere, what comes locally, what goes to the top team, and that landscape is evolving daily, and it's quite an exciting place to be.
Yes, no, I can imagine. And what are the opportunities? If the, am I correct? The ICSs will, in some circumstances, be less involved in direct commissioning than
Mm,
before.
mm.
Does that mean it's moving more towards Department of Health and or more down towards local trust level?
Yeah, that's a great question, because you could listen to any number of speakers on this topic, and it would sound almost schizophrenic, because from my point of view, it's very clear that the idea is to give more control at a local level, at a local
Yes,
accountability provider level,
nice.
and I think that's right, because, as I've said, they've all evolved from different places. They're all in different performance levels, and they've got local needs, right? It's not different between different trusts, different geographies. However, what that sometimes gets mixed up with things. Things around there being more oversight and policy and process that must be adhered to, which could appear to be restricting. But I think the secret is how you would use that support toolkit and oversight that sits up top, and then just as a toolkit, really, and use them where you need to finesse your own journey at the provider level. So I think that's good.
Yes, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I guess from a very simplistic perspective, one could say, well, why don't you do all procurement nationally? Surely better deals can be negotiated. It's easier for Mrs. Procurement in every hospital to log on to a national system and say, okay, I need to reorder floor cleaner. Well, I just press that button. Or is that just really unrealistic regarding the complexity of the system?
It's the million-dollar question, really. I mean, it's the one that people have been wrestling with for years, and it's heavily linked to the Lansley reforms. Fundamentally, the debate comes down to, will people perform better if they're sort of operating as separate businesses, competing against each other in terms of performance, or will they perform better as a systemic whole? In terms of pricing, contracting, I think some things are better off bought nationally, and some things are better off bought locally. So, for instance, if you're sat at a provider and you want some local responsive vendors to be able to come and service your estate, things like ground maintenance, pest control, or even things like morgue services, funeral services, you might need local experts there to come and select what you need.
That makes a lot of sense.
But then if you're offering something that's, heavily commoditized product, generic, that you could ship by the box load, and everyone could use the same thing without danger of clinical misdirection or upsetting the clinical process, then why not?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's very interesting. Does that add, how do you say, a challenge for people working in procurement at the trust level regarding this? Well, should I be looking to national leadership for procurement, or should I just go off and do my own thing?
I'd say it's an opportunity as much as anything. I mean, I'm sure some find it challenging. If you've got a national infrastructure,
Yes.
then you'd want to hope, for instance, that everyone who uses it benefits to the same extent. But don't forget, if you were in a prestigious teaching trust, right, a very large trust where you've got huge volumes, and a potential vendor gets the opportunity to win the contract, right? So, I'm based at, I don't work for guys in St. Thomas as such, but I'm based there, I'm hosted by them. Trust a provider a vendor got the opportunity to supply them, they might be able to try and win better commercial terms than the national deal. So then they might be saying, well, why would I go and support the national deal?
Oh, that's interesting.
Because, well, it's a prestige thing, right?
Yes.
A lot of these big medical device, particularly type vendors, they might try and do that, and they might try and there'll be different deals that they offer different parts of the NHS. Now, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but I think the key is that the national deals and the national strategy needs to be top level, so that attraction's not there.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's very interesting. That's a little bit counterintuitive for me, that a individual trust could achieve a better deal than the national negotiating team or situation. But there are, it's not just volume from the vendor's perspective, which dictates the terms of the deal, is it?
No, and there's much more to it than that. I mean,
Yes.
what makes a good commercial deal, right? So
Yes.
if there is a national deal, it'll have parameters X, Y, and Z. Well, they might not be what suits a local provider. A local provider might want completely different pack sizes,
Whatever.
kits, whatever their needs are, and
Yes.
so then you can't say, well, the best commercial deal is to put a round square, a round peg in a square hole. Ideally, the two are the same, but they're not always.
No, exactly. No, that's extremely interesting. Where is LPP in all of this picture? If you could help us to understand a little bit about what it is and how it functions and its contribution, please.
Sure. So we're just approaching our 20th anniversary. We were set up essentially as a coalition of the willing. We're a membership organisation. Just about all of the trusts in London are members of ours, and that we're within customers across the country. I liken membership of NHS LPP to membership of a gym. And why I say that is, if you think about who goes to a gym, you'll have those people who go 3 times a day and are obsessed with it, and they use everything that's available at the gym. And then you get
that's not me.
Not okay, fine, it's not me either. Then you'll get those people who maybe go to the gym reluctantly once a year because they feel guilty or whichever else. And then you've got everyone in between. Right.
Okay.
And so there's no mandate to source anything.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's all about it again means that we have to be we have to give commercially the best option, a bit like the national situation, to incentivize people to use our contracts. So we let arrange predominantly of frameworks or dynamic purchasing systems, or sometimes we do specific procurements. It all goes through either PCR, a PSR, Provider Selection Regime, or Procurement Act of 2023. What we do is let complex procurements once, so that individual trusts don't then have to redo those procurements each time.
Okay.
So if Trust A was looking to go out and negotiate or even source for a complex patient transport network, why would they start from scratch? If we've done it 5 times in the past for other people, they can add into that.
So loads of synergy there.
Yeah, I mean that's I suppose the role that we bring is we are not a catalog provider. It's not like Amazon or Argos, whereby people can get whatever they want, click a button and it's there. We help with complex procurements where it needs expertise.
Okay.
Otherwise, you wouldn't necessarily work with us. You might go to a different provider. You might just source it locally from a catalog. Complex procurement is
okay. Well, that's very interesting. Where there's obviously a lot of benefits in consolidating amongst different trusts. The task of managing that complexity in the procurement process. Did you mention 2 things? I'm sorry, they weren't familiar to me. Were these platforms? And I beg your pardon, I didn't write it down. 2 different systems or schemes, or what did you mention?
Was it the Provider Selection Regime and 23?
Yeah, what are those, please?
It's the European governance regulations. So I know we've left we've left the EU now, obviously, in the UK. And so it's the latest legislation in terms of procurement compliance. So every time that the government money is spent, there is a process, above a certain threshold. There's a very transparent process that has to be gone through, which will be interesting for people who want to supply the NHS. Whereby, in our case, the NHS, but it's the same in other public sector organisations, they have an obligation to make it very clear what they intend to procure through various different procurement portals and platforms. Give notification so that anyone who wants to be able to bid can bid open and transparently and fairly against evaluation criteria. And the PA23 Procurement Act, that's the Procurement Act. The PSR is more to do with services being traded between NHS organisations. So if one wanted to contract with another for a sub-service.
No, that's interesting. And are there, you mentioned platforms as well. Are there competing procurement platforms that LPP is involved in managing or coordinating?
We not from a competing point of view. From our perspective, we use the recommended government systems. Most of our just about everything that we do is on, gets published through the Atomis tender portal, and people can, I guess, bid through there, liaise with us, ask clarification questions. We'll publish dates, of when we're doing pre-market engagements, that side of things.
Yes.
There are things like Find a Tender or Tenders Electronic Daily, but it's not, they exist, and that's fine. And some people use them and some people don't.
Yeah. Oh, okay. It sounds like that's not really an area that's a priority for LPP or that you're involved in. Is that right?
No, I wouldn't say that. At a detail level, at a personal level, I'm not involved in it. It's been a long time since I published anything, being the MD of the company myself.
Yes.
It's something that we have. It's just a matter of course that our teams go and publish there. And Atomis is the partner that we work with.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. No, that's really helpful and informative. Well, look, we're going to wrap up over the next few minutes. And so a couple final questions. We touched on this earlier, but if we could elaborate very briefly, if there's a supplier that is not yet selling to the NHS, whether they are based in the UK or overseas, do you have any views on what needs to be done to facilitate opportunities for them and therefore improve whatever could be improved, whether it's choice or price or competition or whatever from the buyer side?
I mean, there's a number of contracting organisations in the NHS. I mean, each trust can contract directly, but as I said, why would they go through everything when the tools and the shells are there? So working with a partner that would traditionally be known as like a framework provider has got a number of benefits. There's 4, perhaps 5 NHS owned framework providing organisations at the moment. You've got ourselves, you've got our partners in the north of England, NOECPC. Then you've got NHS Commercial Solutions, East of England, and Peninsula Procurement Partnership that we work with. Each of those organisations will publish on their websites details of the areas in which they contract and when those contracts are going to come up to let. That's quite important. It's certainly for frameworks at least. And it has changed a little with the PA23 in terms of when windows can open and when windows can close.
Right.
There is a set period when people go to market for things based on their procurement schedule. So it might be that I'm not tendering for, I don't know, say clinical network safety for another 18 months. And therefore, if you're a vendor in that space, you need that date on your calendar circled, and you need to be working towards that date. And I think what I would do is as a vendor is do your research into what are the pipelines of each of those organizations, and the pipelines are published centrally these days, which is good. And then they can look to see where they think they might fit and work to those schedules, basically.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. No, that's very interesting. It makes a lot of sense. And then lastly, from LPP's perspective, if you could comment a little bit about the direction that you see LPP going and where it would be 5 years from now. What are some of your core priorities and ambitions? Yeah,
I mean, everything that we do is about putting the patient first. I think we are unique in being the only procurement organisation that's clinically led by that. I mean that we have clinicians on our executive team, and nothing we don't buy anything, or nothing comes through our procurement contracting world without being signed off by a clinician first.
Oh, interesting. Very interesting.
And how that differentiates itself is there are other framework and contracting providers that might provide services or offers that are, I'm not going to say generic, but if they're public sector in general, they might have been built with banking, schools, prisons, hospitals in mind.
Oh, okay.
Whereas we build with the clinician and patient in mind.
Yes. Oh, fantastic.
I think that's going to be ever important for us. As a social value enterprise, we are the only NHS organisation to be to achieve silver carbon status. Nobody's got gold. We are the only one to get silver, and we'll continue in that trajectory in terms of giving value back to the system. So,
yes.
so those, and a third one, I mean, it's just bread and butter for us every day, is delivering value and money. I've just been working through, with it being our 20th anniversary, you know, how much value we've delivered to the NHS since inception. And the cost avoidance number is well over £1 billion in sterling.
Wow. How is that measured? What does that mean?
Yeah, it's interesting. So you've got, I deliberately didn't use the word saving. So if you were going to say saving, you could take a part number. You could say the price was previously X, now it's Y, you know, a reduction. And you'd multiply that by the volume, and that would give you a saving. So you previously paid $10, you now pay $8. You buy 10, you multiply it out. Cost avoidance is less tangible than that, but it might be along the lines of if you had budgeted for a program to say, I don't know, build a ward or a car park, and you might have said, well, it was going to be 100 million, and you managed to do the work and get it in for 80 million, then you've avoided a 20 million pound dollar bill potentially, right? It's very generic. Very simplistic there, but you know, through the procurements that we run, that's what we track.
Outstanding. Yeah, absolutely superb. Like you mentioned at the very beginning of our conversation, you know, the opportunities to serve the taxpayer and bring value and benefit to the entire nation, let alone healthcare and clinicians, is outstanding.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, look, Lee, I hope we haven't taken up too much of your time this morning, but it's been extremely interesting, super informative, and we're very grateful for your contribution. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Barry and team.
Thank you very much. Okay, all the best. Thank you. All the best. Bye-bye.